Welcome back to The Explainer. While I was reading through our source material for today, I realized we desperately need to completely tear down a massive wildlife myth. Think about it. When you picture an apex predator, specifically a majestic black eagle, you probably imagine this life of total, unrestricted freedom, right? Soaring high above the savanna, absolute kings of the sky. Just living the dream. Well, prepare to have that image totally shattered. Because today, we're going to look at the fascinating, incredibly stressful, and surprisingly grueling reality of being a black eagle. Seriously, by the end of this, you might actually be grateful for your morning commute.
Okay, let's dive into this. Does being an apex predator actually suck? We're going to put you right directly in the talons of this magnificent bird and track your life from literal day one. And as you'll see, there's a really stark contrast between our heavily romanticized view of nature and the gritty, super demanding reality of survival at the very top of the food chain.
I mean, we all hold on to this expectation of a majestic, soaring apex predator gliding effortlessly through the clouds. But the harsh reality? You are literally fighting your own sibling to the death just to get a mouthful of chewed-up meat. Just imagine waking up into the world, taking your first breath, and your very first task is a gladiator match in a pile of twigs. It's a really rough way to start. To help us wrap our heads around this journey, I've mapped out the eagle's life cycle using milestones we can all kind of relate to. You start with hatching around day 45. Then, boom, flying lessons hit by day 90. The dreaded moving out phase strikes around month 15. And finally, mating and adulthood kick in around year 4. When you lay it out like this, you can really see just how ridiculously fast and how ruthlessly an eagle actually has to grow up.
So, let's take it from the very beginning. Part 1. The rough start.
Your journey does not start in the open, breezy sky. No, it begins trapped inside a thick shell, sitting in a nest that's perched precariously on the side of a rocky cliff. And you're stuck in there for 45 days. Honestly, you might as well do some push-ups while you wait, because things only get harder the second you break out. When day 45 finally rolls around and you hatch, you're just this tiny ball of downy feathers with huge eyes and a massive appetite. But nobody is paying attention to you. Why? Because your parents are currently having a serious domestic dispute, basically a bargaining session, over whose turn it is to fetch the groceries. Once they finally settle it, your dad tenderly offers you soft, semi-digested meat that he's already chewed. Gross, right? Well, you better get used to it. And then the drama escalates. Shortly after you arrive, a sibling hatches. Now, this is not a warm, fuzzy, welcome to the family moment. You two have to brutally fight over every single meal your parents bring back. And what do your folks do? They literally stand back and watch the whole thing go down like it's primetime television. I'm not kidding. There are 0 timeouts. The fight just keeps going until one sibling wins. If you happen to survive this feathered fight club, your parents might finally celebrate you. Talk about a toxic family dynamic, right?
All right, moving right along to Part 2, Flight and the Gap Year.
So, assuming you won the nest battle, a month goes by. You grow up fast, trading in those fluffy tufts for the sleek, dark feathers that give the black eagle its signature look. As you hit that 90-day mark, you're pretty much fully grown, but you're missing one tiny, absolutely crucial detail. You don't know how to fly, and learning happens the hard way. Step 1. Stand at the edge of the nest, look down an unbelievably terrifying drop, close your eyes, and just jump. Step 2. You plummet toward the earth while your parents circle nearby, basically placing bets on whether you'll soar or splat. Honestly, they'd probably be thrilled with either outcome, just so they can stop feeding you. Step 3. Your instincts miraculously kick in, your wings catch the wind, and smack. You hit a tree. You dust yourself off, realize someone really should have moved that tree, and you try again until you finally figure it out.
Once you can actually fly, well, you gotta eat. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer mechanics of the hunt. Your eyesight is next level. You literally have built-in binoculars capable of spotting a wild rabbit from a full kilometer away. That's 10 football fields. You watch your parents to learn the ropes. Step 1, spot the prey. Step 2, lock your gaze and tense your whole body up. Step 3, fold your rings tight and dive, plummeting like a guided missile. Step 4, micro-adjust mid-air for total surprise. It is an absolute masterpiece of evolution. But here comes the catch. Your premium subscription to free parental food deliveries? Yeah, that has officially expired. It's all up to you now. So you spot a rabbit, you launch into your dive, the wind is just roaring in your ears as you pick up this unbelievable speed, and smack, you hit a rock. Just like the tree incident, you have to try and fail again and again. But let me tell you,
When you finally taste that fresh meal caught with your very own talons, it is 100% worth it.
Then, around the 14 to 15 month mark, your parents start getting kinda distant. They don't officially hand you an eviction notice, but they heavily hint that it's time to pack your bags. Enter the Eagle Gap Year. You strike out on your own to see the savannah, but trust me, this is no vacation. It is high-stakes, hyper-competitive house hunting. You're searching for prime hunting grounds and safe nesting sites, but all the good real estate is already claimed by cranky older eagles who definitely do not want a young upstart moving in next door. You spend a huge chunk of this time just getting chased off and nursing a bruised ego, but you get through it. You practice riding the thermals, spiraling way up into the sky, and you become a master hunter, occasionally giving ground animals a highly scenic, albeit absolutely terrifying, aerial tour of the world right before you eat them.
Which brings us right into part 3, house hunting and romance.
Now, what's really interesting about this phase is how eagles handle dating. Around year 4 or 5, spring rolls around and it's time for romance. Finding a mate isn't about smooth pickup lines. It is this highly complex, dangerous dance of aerial displays and, naturally, romantic gift-giving. Because, nothing says I love you quite like a freshly caught hyrax. Though, you do quickly learn through some incredibly awkward encounters that not every eagle appreciates being enthusiastically dive-bombed with the dead rabbit. Eventually, against all odds, you find your perfect match. Now it's time to settle down and build a home. And by build, I actually mean you just steal somebody else's abandoned nest and toss in a couple of your own twigs just to make it yours. Easy enough. But then comes the true test, the incubation period. You and your mate have to take turns just sitting on the eggs. It is literally the world's longest, most agonizingly boring work shift ever created, broken up only by sheer panic if the egg rolls even slightly. And then, after 45 mind-numbing days, it happens. Your very first child hatches. A tiny, incredibly demanding, fuzzy little creature. You are filled with a beautiful mix of emotions and probably a solid dose of dread. And that kicks off part 4, the parenting marathon. So we already talked about those 45 days of boring incubation shifts, but now, your leisurely afternoon flights are gone forever. They are totally replaced by endless, frantic food runs because your adorable little child eats like it is actively training for the Eagle Olympics. You're just constantly hunting hyraxes. And on top of that, you're fending off other eagles trying to muscle in on your territory in these exhausting, high-speed aerial duels. Let's not forget the sudden freezing downpours, where you have to stand there acting as a living umbrella, only to look down and see your soggy kid glaring at you like, seriously? This is the best shelter you could provide? It is completely exhausting. But one day, mercifully, your kid grows up. You send them off, maybe with a tear in your eye, maybe with a sigh of relief, to go find themselves and become a responsible adult. You did it. Job done.
Welcome to Part 5, Aging at Eagle Retirement.
Back in your youth, you got by on brute strength, ridiculous speed, and pure ferocity. But as an aging eagle entering your golden years, you've got to get smart. You just can't chase down every single intruder anymore. So, you adapt. You realize, why burn all that energy on a physical brawl when you can win the fight with a perfectly timed, menacing glare or a subtle, threatening swoop? You basically trade in your boxing gloves for a black belt in psychological warfare.
But here is the really harsh truth of the wild. The jungle cuts absolutely no slack to an aging apex predator. Remember that awful gap year you had to take? Well, there's a whole new generation of young, ambitious eagles out there, full of strength, wandering the savannah. And they are eyeing your prime piece of real estate with the exact same hunger you had all those years ago. You can use that piercing glare to scare them off for a little while, sure, but eventually the glare stops working. You never really get to stop looking over your shoulder.
And that brings us to the end of our explainer today, leaving us with one final totally provocative question. Knowing the brutal reality of the nest, the crazy sibling death matches, those terrifying flying lessons, the absolutely exhausting parenting marathon, and a retirement spent constantly looking over your shoulder, would you still want to be born an eagle? It completely reframes how we look at these soaring kings of the sky, doesn't it? Thank you guys so much for joining me to unpack this fascinating source material. Stay curious, keep learning, and I will catch you in the next explainer.